Hey, I'm John F. Gately. You can call me Jack, broadcasting to you from beautiful Plymouth, Massachusetts, America's hometown. Happy July, what is it? 7th, 8 a.m. on Monday. Happy Monday. It's going to be a scorchah. How was your 4th? It's going to be a scorchah today. We have our little agenda here. What are we going to talk about? First off, it's going to be a scorchah. As we said, look at that weather forecast. 91, 92, 80. Oh, I guess we're going down into the 70s over the next couple of days. But today and tomorrow going to be a scorchah. Yeah, for sure. So we're going to talk about Secretary Tupper and how she said that once again, we shouldn't build a gigantic pipeline for just 7 days of the year. Apparently, this is one of those 7 days when we could actually use we'll get into that. We're going to get into the Healey hotels. There's new numbers on that. Plus, over the weekend, or the long weekend, so to speak, the Healey administration issued a report very quietly on criminal background checks. Yes, in Healey hotels. So we'll take a look at that report. More Healey is already very worried about FY26, which, if you check your calendar, just started a week ago. But apparently is already trouble in paradise with our FY26 budget. We'll talk about that. And criminal defense attorneys have found out a novel way to basically get their clients off on all sorts of criminal charges. You will not believe that story when we cover it. It's just, you can't make this stuff up. All right, great to have you here today. Thank you so much. As you all know, the weather today is going to be hot, hazy, and humid. You know, your typical July 7th day, right? Your typical July 7th day, which reminded me immediately of this Massachusetts fiscal video, which I don't know if you haven't seen it, but another 90-degree day, another brutal electric bill coming down the pike. According to our Energy Secretary, Rebecca Tupper, she shrugs it off. It's just a few days a year. This is what planning passes for in Massachusetts. Here she is here.
Hi, everyone. It's Rebecca Tepper, the Secretary of Energy and Environmental Affairs.
The issue that we have in New England is that there are, for a few days of the year, prices are high.
Just for a few days?
Maybe 7 days. You don't build a gigantic
prices are only high 7 days a year.
Pipeline for 7 days.
You don't build a gigantic pipeline for 7 days.
What do you think?
Do you think she really knocked down a windmill with the basketball? I don't know. Jason, did you make that happen, like with some type of AI thing or something? I think that might be the case. You know, we had an unusual moment of candor in the state legislature recently, a crime which cannot occur again. And this is also a Mass Fiscal video. Surprisingly, good job again, Mass Fiscal. Where State Representative Turco, who's actually a Democrat, and I'm sure he got probably tarred and feathered for this, for actually saying these types of things. How dare he say it? But as you're listening to Representative Turco, I want you to note the gentleman to his side in the blue sport coat without the tie, because that's what you wear if you're a Cape Cod lawmaker. No ties if you're a Cape Cod lawmaker. No. That is Dylan Fernandez, the newly installed state senator from Falmouth, and he's actually my state senator here in beautiful Plymouth. And you're going to notice on this video that he's not really paying attention to what was perhaps the most important and candid moment that has occurred recently on Beacon Hill. Let's take a look.
What is the priority of the administration?
Everything that I do is with an eye on what is maximizing taxpayer dollar.
Democratic State Rep Jeffrey.
You might not be able to see it in this clip because his hand is away, but Fernandez is on his phone.
Turco putting the heat on Governor Healey's so-called energy affordability bill.
The working class men and women
See, right? Yeah, you see, he's on his phone right there. I hope you can see that.
the state can't afford to wait 30 and 40 years.
Democratic Joint Committee members, led by Turco's concerns from Massachusetts ratepayers, exposed the Healey administration for recycling the same failed mandates that created the
Wow, is she having trouble getting out of that chair?
crisis in the first place.
You take
What's
one.
the
We're gonna
priority?
switch seats.
Rate
Musical chairs
relief.
here. Hold on. You know what? I'm going to go back to the other setup here so you can see this video better. Let's go back to the other setup so you can see. All right, that's better. Here we go.
Or green energy.
This body has set forth certain requirements and goals and things that we're obligated to follow.
The reality of the last
All right, Dylan is very interested in what's going on in his phone while the state representative actually has a moment of candor. Listen.
year or two with our rates is you can't have both. I put my money where my mouth is. I converted my house to
Hold
all
on.
relief or green energy.
This body has set forth certain requirements and goals and things that we're obligated to follow.
The reality of the last year or two with our rates is you can't have both. I put my money where my mouth is. I converted my house to an all-electric heat pump system 3 years ago.
This state representative is so stupid. Well, except the fact that in this particular instance, he actually is getting like real red pilled in real time. He converted his house to heat pumps 3 years ago, and now he's pissed off.
Electric and gas bill for my single-family home was $2,781 for January and February total. You can't get
$2,700. I think he basically said he paid $1,400 a month for wintertime heating bills.
working class people to go green, so to speak, and do these projects if we're burying them with electrical costs.
I'll turn it over to the secretary.
Had this legislation been in place this winter,
Maura can't answer the question. Listen to that again. Listen, this is just brutal.
System 3 years ago. My electric and gas bill for my single-family home was $2,781 for January and February total. You can't get working class people to go green, so to speak, and do these projects if we're burying them with electrical costs.
I'll turn it over to the secretary.
had this legislation been in place this winter, we estimate that the average electric customer would have saved $41 per month.
Oh, whoa, $41 a month. You would have saved $41. I'm pretty sure he paid $1,400 for electricity in January and February because he was a knucklehead and converted to the heat pump thing, the religion of heat pumps. But if this legislation was in place, he would have saved $41. You see, it all makes sense. It makes entire sense. By the way, great to have you here. I haven't live streamed in a while. I know I missed you. And at 8 a.m., no less. We're back at 8 a.m. I know. I totally missed you. By the way, quick update on the show. I put some effort into it over the holiday, and I now have a technology where I can actually take your calls like a radio talk show host. We're going to try that out later this week. I know it's very exciting. Back to the video.
$1.
There's going to be a new fee that's going to be charged to everybody.
It just modifies how that fee is structured.
It's going to be the same charge that they're paying now.
To me, this mass save is a disaster.
Check. This bill does is actually allow for on-bill financing for consumers to access heat pumps and other weatherization measures.
Are we going to have?
Oh, you can put it on a credit card. Perfect. If you want a heat pump to get a $1,400 heating bill.
That apples to apples picture of whether in the end we're paying more by incurring debt, which interest on which has to be paid.
The purpose of
Even Barrett's not, but even nutty Barrett's like, wait a second. You want to finance these heat pumps and you have to pay interest on that. And all of this to save $41 when your bill is now going to be $1,400 a month. But as Secretary Tupper, whatever her name is, says, it's only 7 days a year. Why build a gigantic pipeline? Or, if I could use more Healey, why build two pipelines? Why build two pipelines? Yeah, great work by Mass Fiscal on the videos. If you have not gone over to ISO New England this morning, our current how do we want to say this? energy sources for New England, 64% natural gas as of this morning at 8:05 or 8 o'clock this morning at the start of the show. 64% natural gas in New England, 21% nuclear power, renewables just 6%. And those 6% break down into solar, burning trash, wood, wind. Wind is 14% of your 6%, and a trace amount for landfill gas. Then you got net imports, hydro, coal, oil, and other, whatever other is. Who knows? Who really cares? It's less than 1%. So understand these climate nuts, because effectively they hate humanity, also hate natural gas, right? There was a time, it wasn't that long ago, 10, 12, 15 years ago, where natural gas was the great savior because it allowed us to get rid of the coal plants. You remember that? We're going to bring in all this clean natural gas, of which we have in abundance throughout the United States and especially in nearby Pennsylvania. We're going to bring in all this natural gas so that we can get rid of the coal plants, which I heard recently they've made a lot cleaner than, the coal plants from the 1970s. But setting that aside, the natural gas was our savior, and we're going to be energy independent. Actually, we were energy independent for a blink of an eye during the Trump administration. That was great. And then, the Biden administration came back, to undo all of that and then sell off our strategic reserve. But setting that aside, forget about that for a second. We had natural gas. It was the savior. And now, understand, the climate nuts, it is the enemy. Natural gas is the enemy. And why is it that? Why did it go from being the savior to the enemy? Anyone? Bueller? Because it is so abundant, and it is so, I'm going to put this in air quotes, affordable, that it makes the green energy, hold on, let me get my air quotes again, the green energy unaffordable. Oh, you see, the green energy only makes sense if you can get rid of natural gas, which is affordable and abundant. Because when you get rid of the competition, then your solution suddenly makes sense. See how that works? It's amazing. It's amazing. By the way, if you want to throw in a comment today, we'd love to have your comments. Let's just see if I have any. No, not yet. I haven't trained you enough on the comments. Wait till I have to train you on calling into the show. It's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. Meanwhile, you gotta hand it to these Teamsters people, because they know when to time a trash strike. You don't do a trash strike in February. You do it in January, when everything is going to stink to high heaven. And by the way, a Republic, who's the contractor here in so many towns, most of them on the North Shore, Essex County area. Next time you write a contract with the Teamsters, you idiots, you make sure that it expires in January and February, when the trash doesn't stink as much as it does in January, or in July, I should say. Here we go. Here's former sportscaster Gene Levanti today.
So out-of-state workers are being called in to start collections as a strike between local union workers and a major trash company enters its second week. Boston 25 News reporter Amanda Keene live in Canton now, one of those cities dealing with this issue, with the latest details. Amanda, good morning.
Good morning to you. Yes, we're out here on Neponset Street, and this section of the town of Canton is the lucky first ones that get to have their trash picked up today. As they're
how lucky you are. Oh man, this girl she is low energy.
Regular Monday pickup will be coming today, but that's because some out-of-state workers will be coming to town to start that trash collection. It's been 7 days since the union went on strike, but really 2 weeks.
Did she not get to Duncan before she showed up on camera today? I can't watch it. That is unwatchable. Man, oh God, it sounds like she forgot her Duncan trip, or just basically rolled out of bed to do it. It's been 7 days. All right, I can't do it. I can't do it. But hopefully they'll get their trash done, and hopefully the Teamsters will get a fair contract. And all credit to them for knowing when to time the strike, right? Yeah, the timing is now. There she is, Bats, Joey Bats. Desperate Healey trying to rewrite history on migrant crisis. It is the top story in today's Herald. Do love that picture for sure. Who took that picture? Let's Stuart Cahill of the Boston Herald. All credit to Stu. Way to go, Stu. You can read the Joey Bats column if you want. I wanted to break down the numbers for the most recent EA report, which came out last week. When you look at this report, the top line number here financially is that in FY25, which is not yet done, but we have spent in FY25 of the recent numbers that are complete as of June 26. So you add another week onto this, and we're going to be over $900 million for the emergency shelter program in Massachusetts for FY25. We're currently at 894 million with another week to go. We can do it. We can break 900 million. We can break 900 million for next year. I love also in this report, I don't have it right in front of me, but somewhere in this report, they're supposed to provide a estimate for next year's budget. Yeah, they left that blank for sure. And look at the time frame on these budgets. Here we are here for how long people are staying. Average length of stay in program for family who exited in the last 14 days, 424 days. These folks are in bridge shelter, which is supposed to be a bridge, for 424 days. Rapid shelter, 145 days. That's for people getting out. The average length of stay for your Healey hotels is 313 days. We should now actually start to see this number crumble as theoretically they're kind of gutting the program. And 82 days for the so-called bridge program. So you're still in the rapid for almost 3 months, and you're in the bridge for nearly a year. Understand that the number one person who's responsible for how do we want to say this? I think I used the wrong word on Twitter the other day, but we'll just say changing the landscape of the Healey Hotel program in Massachusetts. The number one person responsible for mitigating demand, that's a better way to say it, is President Donald Trump. Donald Trump closed the border. Maura Healey told us for several years that if only she could have more money and only if there was an amnesty bill, she could manage the situation better in Massachusetts. That's what she told us time after time after time. But the truth was, and remains, the simple fact is all we needed was a new president to close the border. And in fact, Trump is the person who's actually making, here's the irony, Trump is actually the person making Healey look good on this issue. Healey should really be thanking Donald Trump for shutting off the spigot of all these illegal immigrants coming into Massachusetts with the border app. Remember the app? Oh, let me just schedule my arrival in the United States with the open border down in Mexico, the whole thing. It's Trump who we have to thank for mitigating the horrific Democrat-designed purposely implemented invasion, right? Of which Maura Healey was completely and absolutely in favor of. She wanted the invasion. She wanted the invasion, and the only solution she had was to give her more money so she could manage it, not to actually stop the root cause that Kamala Harris went down to Guatemala to go find. The root cause, you didn't have to go to Guatemala or El Salvador to look for. The root cause was the open border. And thank God Trump got elected and closed the border. And those are the facts. Those are the facts. And that's Trump has done more than anybody to actually mitigate the invasion here in Massachusetts. And if Harris was elected, who Maura Healey voted for and who she was hoping to serve as like Attorney General of the United States in the Harris administration, understand that if Harris won, we'd be now looking at probably like an invasion of like double of what we had under, hold on, air quotes, Biden, auto pen. Under the invasion of, like, they would have dialed it up to 11 compared to what auto pen did. And I know that they would have done the amnesty, the whole thing. And it's only Trump who's now making Maura Healey look good, so to speak, by closing the border. So you might remember that there was this big scandal where Maura Healey thought she was doing all these background checks for these illegal immigrants. Remember that? And then she was like, oh, you're not doing them? Oh, I didn't know that. I told you to do them. Right? Remember that? And yeah, I'll go. We have a nice big crowd today. Mary says, Mary reposted this stream. Well, thank you very much, Mary. Very, very nice of you. Thank you. So Maura was like, you should do the Corey checks. You're doing the Corey checks, right? And then sometime later, she came back, oh, you're not doing them. And then there became this big scandal, like, because the administration didn't do what she told them to do. Who's in charge here? So they, over the holiday, July 3rd, it was, they issued the Housing and Livable Communities, issued this report, Emergency Assistance Family Shelter Program Background Check Feasibility Study. So it's this big 19-page report. Don't worry, we're not going to go through the whole thing. Don't worry. I read it this morning so that you don't have to, because as your loyal host, I do my research for you. And I'm going to scroll down only to the last page, which is just one paragraph. We are not going to go over all 19 pages. You know what? Let's go over the conclusion paragraph, and then I'm going to give you the punchline of this entire story. So here's the concluding paragraph. Conducting proper eligibility determination and background checks is an important element for operating a safe and operationally fiscally stable EA shelter program. Yeah, sure it is. Tell that to the drug dealer guy up in the Revere Holiday Inn or wherever he was. Implementing a nationwide background check for those in the EA family shelter would first require new state legislation. And they write that as if it's like impossible. It's a uniparty, Democrat-controlled supermajority. They can do whatever they want. And then federal approval by the FBI, which you'd probably get, no problem. Costs range from startups $400,000 to $800,000 to start the program, and then $2.5 to $3.4 million a year. But it might take 5 to 21 business days to process and return the results, which could increase wait times for placement into shelter for some families as compared to current baselines. In other words, it might slow down the invasion. It might slow down the invasion. So Maura Healey's administration is they're not coming out and saying it, but basically they're saying it. We can't do this. This slow down the invasion. If we do national background checks, it's going to cost us a couple of shekels. What's $3 million a year? That's nothing. We're spending $894 already, and the fiscal year's not even over, right? Might cost us a couple, but we're going to have to do new legislation, and more importantly, it's going to slow the whole process down. It's going to slow. We can't slow. Nothing can slow the invasion. Except for Trump. The only thing that can slow the invasion is Trump, thank God. So, why all of this is just completely ridiculous is the following. When you do a criminal history background check in Massachusetts, what's known as a Corey check, you're only checking Massachusetts records with a Corey check. Maybe you're cross-referencing other states. But understand, the criminal that comes from Venezuela, he's not in a domestic United States database, right? He's a criminal from Venezuela. When you check the national database, it does cross-reference some international databases, but not all of them. And the assumption is, like the simpleton mind of this, is that if we, cross-reference the criminal history record database of, let's just pick a country randomly, Haiti, then we'd catch all the criminals and we'd be able to send them back. This is the thinking. If we spent the $3-something million a year, and if we slowed the program down, which would add another 5 to 21 days of wait time. If we did all of that, the theory is it would catch the criminals coming here to the United States that are from, let's just say, Haiti. Wrong. That's wrong. Why? Because back in Haiti and 1,000 other countries, their criminal history database is like a index card file in some police station that's already been burned to the ground. Right? Barbecue has already barbecued the police station. And you're also operating under the theory that the criminal in Haiti is coming to the United States using his real identity. You are so naive, Maury Healey and all the Democrats. They're not. If you're a criminal in Venezuela, the last thing you do before you cross the Rio Grande in El Paso or Eagle Pass or wherever, the last thing you do is ditch any type of document that IDs you. And so you are Jose in Venezuela, and now you're Juan when you get captured by the Border Patrol, if they even capture you at all, right? You just assume a different identity that has no criminal history. It's all a complete and absolute farce. The criminal history check thing might not have been a bad idea if for no other reason than it slows down the process, but it's not catching criminals. Because I don't know if you know this, but criminals lie. Criminals lie. And it's right. Right. And so if you're a criminal back in Ethiopia and you want to get into the United States, when you show up at the border, you're going to say you're somebody else. You're not coming here legitimately on American Airlines with a legit passport. No. These people are not coming here and not traveling in and out of the United States like you and I are, because they have special rules that, you know, they get to follow. Things are stricter for us because they're special. Let's see. Buck says not most of them. Right. The countries also have to cooperate with the United States, and many do, but not most of them. So, exactly. So Buck makes a good point. Not only could the criminal history systems information system back in Haiti be just a pile of Dewey Decimal Index cards in a burnt out filing cabinet, But the government of Haiti has to be willing to cooperate with the United States. And I do say, use that term loosely, government of Haiti or any of the other countries for sure. They actually have to have real governments, not failed states. And they have to have a real computer system. It's hard enough to get computer systems to talk to each other here in the United States, especially government databases. Imagine what it's like to try to get the FBI database to interface with the database of any other foreign country. You can't even imagine how difficult that might be. So while it is possible to have this background check thing, it's probably not going to catch a lot more criminals. But I'll tell you what would catch a lot more criminals. A closed border and President Trump. That's what catches not only the criminals, it catches all of the illegal aliens who are also all criminal. Like, if you're breaking into our country, you've just committed basically a criminal act. Go back to where you belong. Go back to where you belong. Goodbye. I had actually come up with a list here from this Van Buskirk article that came out on July 4th, I think it was. Healey ready to cut local spending if Massachusetts hits financial downturn. This came out on Friday. Yep, Friday, Van Buskirk. Good job. There were so many things in this article that I just want to I had to make a list of them because Maura Healey, it seems, is very worried about FY26 already, even though they just passed the state budget, which, if I'm not mistaken, was about 6% higher than last year. And I want you to think about that for a second, because our current national rate of inflation is about 3%, maybe even a touch less than 3%. So our state budget, just to put it into perspective, grew at a rate double inflation, roughly speaking. It grew double the rate of inflation, roughly speaking. That should be like warning, growing at a rate more than double inflation, warning. So already this year, out of the $61 billion budget, she vetoed $130 million, which is like a drop in the bucket. But she's also holding off on city and town reimbursements. And these city and town reimbursements are going to be held up until October 15th. So I believe October 15th is the day where the Healey administration has to either cut this money, resize it. That's the euphemism, right? And or make it. They gotta cut or fish or cut bait by October 15th. By then, they'll have a clearer picture of where FY26 is going, and they'll have a couple of months of tax revenue. But the fact that they're leaving the cities and towns hanging out to dry between now and then. Nothing like a good partner, right? Let me just give you an analogy. Trump is causing chaos for Massachusetts, but Healey is causing chaos for cities and towns. Yeah, that's exactly what she's doing by holding up this money, which she might make a decision. She could make a decision before October 15th, but if she wants to string it out, she could string it out all the way to October 15th. There's another very important provision in the supplemental budget bill, which I haven't gotten the language of, so I just have to rely on this great article by Chris Van Buskirk from Friday. But because I wasn't able to find the piece of legislation, because I actually wanted to read it because I'm the dork that reads this type of thing. There's this very obscure piece of general law. It's called 9C. And it allows the Secretary of Administration and Finance to certify that budget revenues would be below target, blah, blah, blah. And if they're below target, then the governor can make some unilateral cuts. without legislative approval, but basically. And Healey is asking for an expansion of that power. Yeah. So, I mean, the fiscal year just started, and she's already looking to have some tools in the toolbox to downsize the budget. And so I have not read the language, but according to this excellent article by Chris Van Peiskirk in the Boston Herald, it would be if shortfall one way or the other because of Trump or because of bad tax revenue or any, if there was a $400 million hole in the state budget, she would then have the 9C power to cut budgets across state government. You see, currently, the 9C power is only restricted to the executive branch, which is the vast majority of the government. I get it. But there are some other like places she could cut. Like the state auditor. Like she could cut the state auditor's budget. She could cut the budgets of some political enemies. And so if there's a $400 million hole, it would trigger this larger 9C authority. I am actually in favor of this. I am wildly in favor of this. Because if we win the governorship in 2026, I want the governor, if we have a Republican governor, I want the governor to be able to take the 9C hatchet to all sorts of budgets, right? Yeah. So I want to get rid of the $400 million whole threshold, and I want to expand this 9C power as broadly as it possibly can be. Because right now, the way we're looking, growing at 6%, even though inflation is nominally 3%, we should not be looking just to cut $130 million. We should not be looking just to hold off on reimbursing city and towns. What we really should be doing is massively cutting the state budget and then giving the city and towns the money that they expected now. See, I would do it the opposite way. I'd cut the executive branch now, cut those jobs now, get that FTE number down, and then give almost all of that money to the cities and towns. Maybe hold back some. But that's the way I would do it. Get my FTE number down because it's a rocky road ahead. It's a rocky road ahead. She is also in this budget package that she signed and everything. She's saying no to the 2% increase for non-manager. So if you're a rank and file state government employee, you're expected to get a raise in the middle of this fiscal year, 2%. Nope, that's canceled. She's continuing the executive branch hiring freeze, and she has told the Group Insurance Commission, who just got a massive bailout, by the way, that no more Wegovy. No more Wegovy. If you're on the Group Insurance Commission, no more Wegovy for you. Get on a diet. You can only get Wegovy if you have like some type of qualified medical condition like diabetes. But if you're on Wegovy just because it's a fashion thing and you want to lose 10 or 15 pounds, no more. And that's actually consistent with a lot of other health plans across the country. They have basically cut back on Wegovy or GLP-2, whatever the hell they call it, as a designer drug or as a fad or whatever you want to call it, right? If you're taking it for a non-essential medical reason, your coverage is going to be canceled. And that also opens up the supply of this Wegovy or whatever they want to call it for people who actually really need it, like people on people who have diabetes and that type of thing. Great to have you there. I was shocked by how many people we have to say. Glad to have you here. Let's see, Buck adds, cut off Healey hotels and the budget issues are over. You know what, Buck? First off, as we know, a lot of your population is moving from Healey hotels over to the home base program, which offers up to $30,000 in rental assistance for 2 years. I think they actually had it up to $45,000 for 3 years, and I think recently they tried to cut back that. But I don't think so, Buck. I think we have to start to think about cutting our full-time employees, cutting the size of government, cutting the size. I know radical, cutting the size of government. I would much rather have that money in that pocket. I'd rather have it in your pocket, Buck. I'd rather have you have an extra X amount of dollars every year in your pocket, so that you can invest in your family, whatever it is. Put food on the table, take real estate class at the online realestateacademy.com, or do anything with whatever 100 and 200, 300, whatever the money it is. I believe in the infinite wisdom of the American people to spend that money better than the government. So I'd rather see you have that money. And I remember this famous press conference. If Wendy is watching today, I'm sure she remembers it. Governor Weld took office, and I was an intern at that. I wasn't even an employee at the State House at the time, but I was an intern. It was this famous Bill Weld press conference in January or February of 1991. And he basically came into the briefing room and said, we're effed, right? It was basically, the Dukakis effed things up because he didn't want to be real about the budget during his presidential run. And then we had the recession, which started to hit actually before the presidential election of 1988. And we've put off a lot of hard decisions. In sacrifice to Dukakis's presidential ambitions. And now we're completely effed, was basically Bill Weld's message in early of 1991. And then he went on to say that we're going to basically kill all the walruses. If I have the terminology correctly, he basically went in and said, it was very Trump-like, this press guy. It's famous. I mean, everybody was glued to the television at the State House at the time. And he's like, we're going to cut the size of government. We're going to cut the size of government because it's growing like this giant mushroom is just going to like encapsulize us. It was awful. And that's where we are now. And that's what we need. We need a Republican governor in the early 2027 to come in and say, Massachusetts the government has gotten way too big and we have to cut back. This is a huge parallel to 1990 for sure. And the simple fact of the matter is, when you hear our current Republican candidates for governor say things like, no new taxes, I don't want them to say no new taxes. I want them to say, how about lower taxes? Because when you start the debate off, no new taxes, there's an implication there that you support the current level of taxation. I want a Republican candidate for governor who says, yeah, no new taxes. In fact, not only are we going to do no new taxes, we're going to do lower taxes. And while we're at it, we're going to do smaller government. How about that's the type of candidate I'm looking for? I don't want a candidate that says no new taxes, because there's an implication that, hey, I'm okay with the current level of taxation. Meanwhile, since we're talking about politics a little bit, Maura Healey outraised Republican challengers in June, maintaining an overall cash advantage. Well, of course she did. She's the incumbent. Of course she did. She's the incumbent. I had lunch with somebody the other day, and coffee, really. Not that I drink coffee. I had a Diet Coke or something. And he's like, everybody that donates wants something. Everybody that donates wants something. And of course, when you're the incumbent, you're in charge of dishing stuff out, whatever it is, contracts, jobs, the whole thing. You know, the swamp. You're in charge of the swamp when you're the incumbent. And that's what really worries me about some of the current Republican candidates, because some of the current Republican candidates basically just want, they are trying to tell us that if only they ran the swamp, everything would be better. No, I don't want a Republican to run the swamp. I want the swamp to be pumped out and filled in. See the difference? Big difference. I'm not looking for someone to come here. This is not an argument about competence. This is an argument about vision. I'm not looking for somebody to run the swamp better. I'm looking for somebody to get rid of the swamp, to fill it in and pump it out and filter it out and get rid of all that crap. I'm looking for someone to develop the swamp into and transform it. I'm looking for somebody transformative, not somebody who can just manage it better. No, that's not what I'm looking for. So Maura Healey has more money than God. She's going to have more money than God because she's the incumbent, or these challengers. So when you stop and think about that, how do we win the 2026 race if Maura Healey's going to have this financial advantage? Well, one of the reasons why is because we have a great message and she keeps on effing up left and right. And the other reason so she's handing us like issue after issue on a platter, which we've beaten her up with a little bit, but it's still got a long way to go. And the other way to beat her is on social media, which is effectively free if you have talent. If you have not learned anything from the communist who won in New York City, Zoran, you might hate Zoran, and he's a communist. I get it. I'm not endorsing his policies at all, other than to remind you, he was really good at social. He's fantastic on camera. And he won against a much better finance candidate because he has talent as an on-camera person. And Andrew Cuomo doesn't. Andrew Cuomo doesn't. Same thing with Trump. Trump was outspent by Kamala Harris by a lot. But Kamala sucks on camera, and Trump is brilliant. Trump is also brilliant in the written word as well. And so if you're not noticing, the dynamic here is that the value of money, relative value of money, is declining a little bit in the political world relative to your talent to communicate. And so that talent to communicate is starting to rival and maybe might even surpass the financial advantage, because all of these tools for Instagram and X and YouTube, all the platforms, they're effectively free. It's just how you use them. As Gary Vaynerchuk says, what is the ROI of a basketball? Well, if you're Gary Vaynerchuk, the ROI of a basketball is just a good workout, which is no harm in that. But if you're LeBron James, it's $1 gazillion. Same basketball. It's just how you use it and your God-given gifts. Right? What's the value of this microphone to me? Nothing. This is just a hobby. What's the value of this microphone to Rush Limbaugh? Tens of millions of dollars, because he had talent unloading from God, right? Dun, dun, da, 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 dum, ba, da. Did you see this? I can't even watch this.
Isn't about
so
returning to some
evil
mythical
and
past.
disgusting.
It's about building the future.
I'm not a proud American.
I'm proud of the real America.
I'm an America I no longer recognize.
I can't even. I'm into it for 10 seconds. Like, I think Wendy Wakeman said she couldn't watch it to the end. I did earlier today watch it to the end. Globe opinion. How does it feel to be an American? And so they literally interview this guy who's from Venezuela. I grew up in Venezuela, and he literally says that America is starting to become more like Venezuela. He's Juan from Needham. He's a Needham man. And yeah, I wonder why Massachusetts is becoming more like Venezuela. You can go watch the video. Please make it stop. Yeah, I love this next story. This is so Nantucket of you. Nantucket homeowner sued for allegedly cutting down neighbors' trees to create ocean view. All credit to the Nantucket Current, which is my favorite news outlet on Nantucket. David Creed. So this person, a Nantucket homeowner, is suing their neighbor for seeking $1.4 million in damages, accusing them of trespassing into their yard earlier this year and cutting down about 15 trees so that they could get sweeping ocean views. They subsequently put their property on the market for almost $10 million. So they wanted to sell their house, but they didn't have any ocean view because their neighbor's trees were blocking the view. The simple fact of the matter is you don't have a right to a view. You don't have a right to a view. And so in the middle of off season, they came and cut the trees down on the neighbor's yard so that they could get a view and that they put their house up for sale. A similar thing actually happened in Plymouth a couple of years back where there was this old schoolhouse, and this company in town revitalizes all the old buildings like the Armory and the Registry Deeds. They had revitalized this this schoolhouse that was up on a hill, and they made it into condos. The problem is that when the school was built, it probably had a beautiful view of the ocean, but the trees grew up, and they couldn't see the ocean anymore, especially from the top floors. So the trees were in the way. So what did the developer do? He crossed the street into this land owned by the town, and he cut down the trees. Right? And this is a perfect example of, what do they say? Ask for forgiveness later. Perfect example here. And so this is the perfect Nantucket story. Nantucket homeowner sued for allegedly cutting down neighbors' trees to create ocean view and then sell his house for more. I actually sold a house once, which was subject to a view easement. Yeah, I had never heard of this, but it is a thing where you may have a right to cut down the trees of a budding property if the trees grow too tall to block your view. It's legit if it's written into your deed, but if it's not written into your deed, then you can't do it. And there seems to be of no such permission. So I sold a house once that was subject to a view easement, and I had to disclose this to the buyers. I said, if anyone builds a house over there, there was no house currently, but if anyone builds a house over there and they ask you to take down a couple of trees, you'll be obligated to do it or allow them to do it because there's a view easement. So there is a thing, but you can't just exercise that on your own. You can't do that. So yeah, it's a thing, believe it or not. Let's see. Wendy says, bingo, I want vision too. All right. So we're sharing the vision right there. Thank you, Wendy. A couple more comments. I think Wendy was talking about vision of where we want our state government to go and our candidates. Bill Faulkner says, Healey's executive branch is conservatively owned by 3,000 positions since Baker administration, costing the taxpayers approximately $279 million. This does not include all state employees. This is the executive branch. Thank you, Bill, for that nugget. Appreciate that. What's the ROI of a basketball? A jump shot can make you governor. All right, Fitzy, you did it. You got me to laugh. That was pretty funny. Let's see. let's see. Wendy says she's here, and I know she remembers that. I know she remembers that press conference from Weld, which I watched. I remember I watched it in what they call the bullpen, because in 1990, I think it was the largest incoming class of freshman legislators like ever. And we were located in what is now the minority leader's office. And I was just an intern at the time, but it was kind of like a legendary press conference for sure. And Weld was basically coming in and doing his kind of U.S. attorney stick and kicking some ass. So when we're talking about U.S. attorney stuff, so I don't flying under the radar screen up until kind of recently has been this work stoppage by the public defenders. So this is really important. Stay with me for just a second. So the public defenders get paid about $65 an hour, and they wanted $100 an hour, which percentage-wise, it's a big increase. Now, understand that they don't really have any customer acquisition cost because they just go to the courthouse and get assigned. So they don't have to advertise like regular lawyers or anything like that. But setting all that stuff aside, they wanted to go from $65 to $100. And so a couple of weeks ago, they decided we're not going to take on any more criminal cases. We're only going to serve the existing cases. We're not going to take on any more. Now, remember, these people are effectively... they love criminals. This is the only way. And they effectively want to decriminalize like all sorts of shit. So this is masterful on their behalf, really, because they're kind of striking, but not really striking. They're just saying, I'm not taking new clients, kind of like the healthcare system. And now they took that position knowing that there was this protocol out there that said after, I think it's 45 days, after 45 days, if a defendant doesn't have a public defender, then they get sprung. And their entire case might get dropped. So these people who have dedicated their lives to basically decriminalizing all sorts of stuff have found this really clever way to get all of their clients off. Yeah, it's brilliant on their part. So they basically went on semi-strike, and that is going to start getting their clients off the hook. Who knew by not being a lawyer, you could actually get your clients off? Take a listen to Channel 5.
Stoppage of defense attorneys. Lawyers who defend indigent clients stopped accepting cases in a dispute over pay. A justice of the Supreme Judicial Court has invoked what is known as the LaValle Protocol after making a finding that there is an ongoing systemic violation of indigent criminal defendants' constitutional rights to be represented by an attorney. The protocol mandates that defendants who have been in custody and have no...
This is very exciting B-roll, by the way, Channel 5. Love it. Just a static photo of the prison window. Very exciting.
No access to a lawyer for 7 days are to be set free. Defendants without a lawyer for 45 days would have their cases dismissed. That could be hundreds of defendants by the end of the month. That's according to the Committee for Public Counsel Services, which oversees representation for indigent clients. Reporting live this morning.
All right, so hundreds, you heard it first from Channel 5. Hundreds of criminal cases might just be thoroughly dismissed because these people won't go to work and take on new clients because $65 an hour is not enough for them. Oh, by the way, there was a proposal to give them a raise as part of the state budget, but no, that got dropped. And I'm not saying they should get the raise, but you know what? I think there should be a law that says if you're a public defense attorney, you can't turn down new assignments. So this is what I'm talking about in terms of vision and about talking about in terms of going on the offensive. You got these public defenders who are getting these cases for $65 an hour, and they don't want to take any more new cases. So my feeling is, okay, fine. You don't want to take any more new cases? Then we're not going to take you ever again. You've got to go on the offensive. You got to go on the offensive because otherwise these people are going to get what they actually want, which is kind of like a Rachel Rollins decriminalization of all sorts of things. And they're going to make our state more dangerous. Thank you, Maureen Healey, who's ultimately in charge of all of this, right? Here we go here. SJC rules. Massachusetts must begin releasing unrepresented defendants from custody, which is basically the same thing that you heard from Channel 5. On Sunday, there were 1,100 unrepresented defendants, 70 of whom were in custody across Suffolk and Middlesex counties, according to CPCS. That number fluctuates. So basically, there's 70 people in jail that deserve to be in jail, and probably they're going to be out on the street soon. Oh, lovely. It's not like we don't have a crime problem. I heard that story over the weekend like you did, that crime was down. Oh, okay.
Kale, that chaos all unfolded overnight right here where I'm standing in Milton. We're a couple of steps away from the Milton Yacht Club that feeds into the Neponset River, and neighbors I had the chance to catch up with today told a terrifying story of waking up and finding bullet holes in condos and cars and boats around this area, and those same neighbors are still searching for answers.
Something that you wouldn't think that would happen here.
An overnight scare that began in Milton at 3:51 Sunday morning. Police responded for reports of possible gunfire on Wharf Street and found a 21-year-old man shot with life-threatening injuries next to the water.
I'm surprised it hasn't happened sooner because it's obvious what's been going on for some time.
Brad Woods lives just a few steps away. He says there's a lot of late-night activity in the parking lot.
Seen two cars pull up beside one another with the windows down. Then a short time later, both cars leave.
Roughly 15 minutes after crews got to Wharf Street, Boston police rushed to Adams Street in Dorchester, less than a mile away from the Milton scene. A 23-year-old Boston man was found with a gunshot wound. He's expected to be okay.
Everything's normal. Everything's normal. Don't pay attention. Everything's normal. Crime is down because basically they've stopped enforcing all sorts of things. Right? When you stop enforcing all sorts of things, the statistics go down, right? When you create Hamsterdam, all of a sudden your drug arrests go down and it looks like there's less drug activity. See how that works? Yeah. By the way, that the older gentleman that said, I'm surprised this didn't happen sooner, is because it's highly likely that if you're not familiar with this Lower Mills location, which I am, if I'm not mistaken, this is right near Baker Chocolate. There's a little parking lot there. Baker Chocolate, I know I'm dating myself. There's a little parking lot there where the Neponset River has this wharf, and they're doing drug deals there at night, right? And then they're had a similar incident, or connected incident, I should say, over on Gallivan Boulevard. So this happens all throughout the city, and you can't say, and I just kind of laugh that report that came out. Crime is down from 2023 to 2024. Okay, sure it is. Let's see if we have any more comments here. D says, reposted this stream. Well, thank you very much, D. Very nice of you. And we do have a nice big crowd today. Wendy adds, my house has a view easement on a nearby maple. Well, look at that. I didn't know you. I guess you could have a view easement for anything. The only time I've ever done it was a view easement of the ocean. If the trees grew too tall and it blocked the view of the ocean, because I live, I sell real estate here in Plymouth. Actually, anywhere in Massachusetts. But the one that I dealt with, which I do think is kind of an oddball type of thing, because you don't have a view, you don't have a right to a view, but it is a wrinkle that you can come across, and mine was near an ocean. If the trees grew too tall, then it blocked the ocean view. There you go. And by the way, how does that actually start? That almost always starts where one person owns both properties, or maybe the developer owns the whole neighborhood, and then he wants to preserve the value of properties farther away from the ocean, so he puts in view easements for the properties. So that when you buy the house, you have a view, but you want to make sure that you still have that view 20 years later to preserve your value, and therefore you put a view easement. You see how that works. All right. So it's been great to be with you. A little bit over time. got my voice back again. I gonna try to be with you again. It's a scorchah. Hopefully won't have a rolling blackout today. I hope that you have a great day. Happy 4th of July, Independence Day week, as I like to call it. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.